And we're back for another episode. And today I am joined by the first individual who's been on the Body Beauty Show, whose last name is a cocktail. And I am deeply jealous. It is very 007 like. Dan Martini from One Stop Revenue. Thanks for being on. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks for the little intro there.
And so the setup to the intro there for the listeners is that Dan is actually the 007 James Bond of all things marketing inside of the space of fitness and wellness. And so today's objective is to get into the brain of Dan and untangle, or rather expose, or get to the treasure trove that is all of his brain juice and share it with you, the listeners. So if you are struggling to find your way in the realm of marketing because there's, oh my God, there's so many options, so many agencies I could work with, so many different tactics and angles. And do I Twitter? Do I Facebooks? Do I Instagrams? What do I do? Where do I start? Well, here today is your 007 or Morpheus Dan Martini. So on that note, on that very lackluster introduction, which doesn't set you up at all to have high pressure, now that I've introduced you as 007. Let's start with how you came to be. And the reason this is interesting is, well, the listeners will soon find out. So never mind that. How did you begin? Walk us through the journey of your owning a gym to then going into the corporate life to now doing what you do today, if you would.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, first of all, I'm hoping to make this a very valuable podcast. So, and regardless of which industry you're in, whether you are in fitness, health and wellness, spa, med spa, whatever it may be, I think you're going to get a lot out of this. So I don't want to harp on my story too much, but kind of the short version is when I was around 20 years old, I just had that entrepreneurial bug, which I think anyone listening to this podcast has, so they can relate to it. And I was 20, right? I was super young, and I was a gym buff. That's where I spent all my free time. I just loved it so much. And so one thing led to another. I started a small gym, and it just grew pretty quickly. I think just with connections and, we were just in the right spot and all of that. We didn't do a ton of marketing. So I can't give any of my success credit to, to actual marketing. But I was 20, right? So I was super young. About 5 years later, 3 years later, I brought on a business partner. We really wanted to grow it, which we did. But I eventually just kind of fell out of love with the business. And I was super young, right? I was 25 at the time at that point. And I was like, what can I do next? Where can I increase my skill set? What does the future of my life look like? And so I knew I wasn't fantastic at sales. And so at that time of my life, nobody I knew, I was 25, nobody I knew owned their own business. I had no one to relate to or anything like that. So the easiest thing I could come to was, let's get a job. Let's learn the skills of the job and go from there. So I got a sales job at a construction company. And that one of the things that I really was looking for when I was looking for a job was, can I learn something valuable here, like sales? And it just turned out to be that the job that I got had probably the best sales training I have ever experienced in any job, anywhere, no matter, it doesn't matter what industry. And I learned so much there. It was outrageous. And we sold, construction things. So roofing, siding, windows, gutters, those types of things, but they're actually really high ticket items. They're like $30,000, $10,000, sometimes $50,000 to residential homes. And so that just gave me a really great start into the sales world. Eventually left there, went to another job, a tech job. So I was like, all right, I can move these skills over to the tech world, which I did. However, I learned something very important at that time in my life, which was the product that you're selling really, really matters. And there's no amount of sales skills you can learn and implement to sell something that's not good. So that's when I was like, you know what, entrepreneurial, the world of entrepreneurship is calling my name. I need to do something there, which is kind of how One Stop Revenue started. So that's the, I guess, short story.
Interesting. I like the fact that you, at least from the sounds of it, you stuck your toe in the water of selling. You got the job to learn sales, largely as a result of the need to solve a problem that you had, which was this gap of, I don't know how to sell. And I know if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I need to know how to sell. So rather than picking up a book from the 80s, why don't I go learn from the best? So what about that experience and those skills that you picked up in that job selling has overlaid to what you do today? Are there any perhaps lessons in there? Because one avenue I'm thinking about walking down here is, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an owner of a spa or a massage therapy center. Certainly it probably wouldn't make sense for me to go find a sales job or a marketing job to learn to do those things. But there must have been some lesson that you picked up through that journey, let's say, that would be applicable to someone that maybe wasn't as, let's say, fortunate to be able to do that themselves. Is there anything along those lines as we flesh out, I guess, some ideas or insights or lessons from that journey? Because you certainly learned something.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be good at sales. That's one thing I learned the hard way. And you think of any entrepreneur in the world, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, name anybody, right? Anyone that owns a business or knows what it's like to run a business, you have to be really good at selling your ideas, your vision, your passion, your conviction, no matter what. And a lot of that can come natural to you if you're just an entrepreneur that loves what you do. But there's also some skills that you really need. So if you are not good at sales, you either need to learn from someone that is good at sales or hire someone that can help you be good at sales, or they can sell for you. But at the core, like if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be good at sales. There's no way around it. You don't have to be the slickest, smoothest salesperson. And I actually hate that, right? But you have to know how to convey your passion and your vision to your team. I mean, look, everything is selling, right? Whether you're trying to get your kids to bed or whether you're trying to close $100 million deal, everything is selling. And you have to be good at it at whatever domain you're trying to, pursue. So the good news is a lot of the sales mechanisms can be transferred across any industry. So whether it's tech, construction, spas, massage therapy, fitness, wellness, chiropractic, whatever it may be, the skills, the mechanisms work the same, which is really good news because you can learn good salesmanship from anyone who's good at sales, which is really nice.
I agree. In fact, I would argue perhaps further that everything in life is sales. Everything. You want to get a date? Sales. You want to get a friend? Sales. You want to get a job? Sales. You want to sell something? Wow, revelatory. Sales. Everything is selling. Getting attention, holding attention, converting someone from a state of status quo-ness to taking action, et cetera, et cetera. Everything is selling. Everything is influence. Everything is persuasion. But yet, what I find so funny is that despite us being both the, you could say, subject and object of that domain, we all naturally seem to suck at it, which is so baffling. I don't know why that is. It's not like we're studying. It's one thing to study Mars, which is, I don't know, not light years away, but really far away, because you can't study it because you got to take a rocket to Mars. But we can study ourselves and what we hate about salespeople and what they do and the overslickedness and what have you. But yet, despite that, the majority, or for the majority rather, the default state is to be terrible at selling. So let's let's do this with the show today, because I think there's two veins we should poke the ivy into, so to speak. We'll touch on the sales stuff for a bit, but I think really where your horsepower lives is in the realm of marketing. So for the listeners, to give you some setup as to what's coming, we'll briefly talk on selling and some ideas on like, stop doing this because this is bad, being too slick, maybe too polished, or whatever it might be that Dan shares. And then we'll spend the majority of our time on marketing. So things like how to convert. What is the art of conversion? What does that look like? And all the tentacles that live inside of that. And then some of the non-negotiables of marketing as well. And newsflash, it's not just Facebook. So there you have it. So that said, I would like to spend some time on selling, and in particular, in your experience, having served those in the fitness and wellness space, what are some of the mistakes that you see these owners and their staff make when it comes to selling?
I would say the biggest mistake is not having a process or system in place. Selling is not as easy as just sitting down, having a conversation with someone and them saying, all right, sign me up. There's a little bit of method to the madness. And I think regardless of how good it is, you need one. And any plan is better than no plan at all. Any process is better than no process at all, because then it gives you a baseline to work on. It gives you some sort of foundation to improve upon. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to get better, regardless of how many sales appointments you have or how many people come in for a trial or a consultation or whatever. If you don't have something laid out that's consistent that you can follow, you're not going to succeed to your fullest potential. Let's put it that way.
Process. Can you give us an example of what that might look like?
Sure. If someone comes in and you're in a sales situation, a good process, you would have some type of discovery session, right? In that sales appointment, you want to make sure you know things about them. So asking them the questions that matter to them is really important. Getting out of them the struggles they're going through, the why haven't they achieved their goals, what's holding them back, those things, right? Essentially, all sales is, actually, let me break this down even into a more fundamental, understandable way. Here's what sales is. Number one, discovering where that prospect is now. Number two, understanding where that prospect wants to go. And then number three, making the gap between those two your solution or your service or your product. That is sales. So if you can, number one, understand where they are, their struggles, why haven't they reached their goals, how badly do they want the goal, what the goal is, where they want to get to, and then implanting your service or product as the solution to get to that goal, that's the simplest process for sales you can have.
So how does that look though? Do I hand my staff a list of questions? Is it a framework? Is it some sort of heuristic? Is it something like waypoints? Is it tabula rosa? Hey, here's, like how do you manifest that from your perspective? Because as a sales guy, of course, I think of any one of the 500 different qualification frameworks, BANT, CHAMP. Which these are largely used. Well, those are in particular dated, I think, but certainly there must be some sort of framework or method, let's say, that is applicable in that context where it's obviously B2C, or B2P, business to patient or business to customer. Is there some sort of way to put feet to that? Because I think a lot of people hear gap. Okay, let's see. So I can see that they have acne on their face. Got it. You don't want to have acne. Cool, I've identified the gap. Here's how we fix it. But there certainly seems to be more to it than that.
Yeah. A visual problem that they're trying to solve is obvious, right? But they're there for a reason. So I think bringing that out of them is really important. So let's take the acne example and kind of unravel that for a second. If they have acne, what brought you in the first place? Oh, I have acne. They're not going to say, oh, I have acne, but they're going to say, the acne that I have doesn't go away. Okay, well, what have you tried to get rid of it? I've tried this. Why do you think that hasn't worked? I don't know, because of ... right? They're gonna tell you reasons why they're there. How is that affecting your daily life? Oh, people notice it. They point it out. I hate when people notice it. I hate looking like this in pictures and photos and things like that. So that, I don't follow any type of framework as far as no acronym or anything like that. It's really, number one, I picture myself as a doctor, and I say, okay, I have to figure out what the symptoms are here. Like, what is going on? Why are they feeling sick? Why do they feel sick? What have they tried to cure this? And really dig into the symptoms and those types of things. So that's number one. Number two is, okay, well, what's your dream scenario? Where do you want to go from here? I want clear skin. I don't want one blemish on my face. Okay, well, you have this type of acne. It's been, you have these symptoms. You have this, which is permanent. You have this, that, and the other, right? You lay out what is actually the current scenario, the current situation. And then from there, all you need to do is say, look, this is our process or our system or our product or our service or whatever. And these are the things that it will address. And it's kind of like prescribing to them the best solution possible and why they need to do it now. And so there is no magical framework. There's no silver bullet. There's no secret sauce to sales. It really is, how well can you connect with that person and get them to open up, get them to figure out what those situations are that they're in now, where they want to be, and giving them the best possible solution to reach that goal. And that eliminates all of the sliminess out of sales, the snake oil salesman type of mentality. It eliminates all of that because you're giving them what they need. And that's the most important thing. There's a lot of different factors in sales, like avoiding pain, achieving goals. Like, there's a lot of different things you can play on, but the main thing is giving them what they need that satisfies them today.
I think a lot of people think they know what they need, but then they come to realize if they have someone that's really good at doing the, I guess it's consulting, which is what good salesmanship should be. If your fundamentally existence is predicated on your ability to help someone select the right solution, which to do that, you have to be able to identify what the hell the problem is. I think oftentimes people think they need X. That actually doesn't improve, or rather they need Y, but that doesn't improve X, which is the problem. So it's usually something else completely that they actually need, which might be Z, that they haven't thought of. And so the challenge I've always let's say played with is, how do you challenge someone where you're changing their paradigms? Let's put feet to this. So someone comes in and they say, I don't know, I need a fat loss treatment or something to address my cellulite. Like, maybe they don't understand that the product that they're asking for is really a device for cellulite, but they're asking to use it, but it's really a fat loss product. And they're like, no, I need to use this device. But you're like, well, no, that doesn't do this because that does this. And what you really need is that. How do you convey expertise, or is there some other element in the, let's hyper focus this into like the consultation period, like when the new prospective client comes in, they're seated in your office, like when the doctor walks in, and what seems to be the problem? Short of having an MD on your chest, let's say you're an esthetician or whatever, how do you convey expertise to a new prospective client? Because I think, at least from my perspective, but I'm also very, very, very challenger type, or whatever, recalcitrant, general. Let's see. I tend to be impolite. So my mother says. And so I don't generally assume people are experts, which is maybe a fault of my own. But is there a way in which you would suggest that if the goal is to get someone to actually open up and say, hey, you know what? Actually, yeah, God, thanks for asking. The issue is this. Here's why I think it's happening. Here's how I feel about it. AKA, how do you get someone to actually open up and speak to you candidly, where they can sense that you're worthy of that because you're an expert and not just some clown that's going to be scribbling notes feverishly as you tell them what your problem is. Like I felt, frankly, when I was in the dermatology office last week and the doctor's little minion came in and just asked me 21 questions in a very annoying way, in which I'm like, okay, can you bug off and get me the doctor? Like, you're annoying. I don't want to talk to you. Is there a way to signal expertise in that moment, you think?
Yeah. So there's a really great business coach named Jay Abraham, and he tells this story where he was at a seminar that he was doing for business, right? And at night after the seminar, he went to the bar and he saw this guy there and they just started chatting. And he started asking him just questions. Oh, like, why are you in town? Just small talk, right? And a couple hours went by. At the end of the conversation, the guy that he was talking to said, "You are the most interesting person I have ever spoken to. And we should definitely catch up and do business sometime." But during that 2 hours of talking, all he did was inquired about what he does, why he does it, what keeps you motivated, and all of these things. There's just questions, and it's not a 21 questions type of questioning. You're not saying, when's your birthday? When's your, what's your favorite color? Like those types of things. It's more of, it's an inquisitive interest in their life. And the guy never knew Jay's name. He never asked him questions, but apparently he was the most interesting person he had ever spoken to. And all Jay did was ask questions. And so they didn't really have much of a quote unquote conversation, but he was just very inquisitive with that gentleman. And so the asking the right questions is more important than showing off your expertise. If you ask really pinpointed questions, it can make you seem like you know so much more about what you're doing than you really do. And I don't mean that in a roundabout way or a deceiving type of way. But if you ask questions that really matter, then you don't have to show off how much you know about a product or how much you know about anything. So asking the right questions is really important, but at the same time, giving them really good reasons as to why what they want does work for some situations, but what can work better is something else, and give them the reasons for that. And so, you can't dismiss anyone's requests, but you can say, yeah, that's great for this, this, and this. And I think that can work really well. However, I even think this could be better because of X, Y, and Z. And that will display your, expertise and things like that. But asking the right questions is really important. That's probably the most important thing in sales, is asking the right questions and then giving real, honest advice as to what they should do and why. And that's where you build trust. That's where you build authority. That's where you build expertise. That's where the sale really gets made.
Yeah. Ask better questions. Seek first to understand and then to be understood.
Right. Yeah. Wasn't it Aristotle that said, the only thing I know is I know nothing at all? Was it him that
Socrates.
said that? Socrates.
Yeah,
okay, I was close.
Not. Yeah.
And the more questions you ask, the more you know, and the more you realize you don't know.
There's a whole lot of which we do not know. So yes, 100% agree. Well, we should shift gears to the domain of which you are. This is your kingdom, marketing. So I'm gonna tee this section up with a fairly simple question, which is this: what is the biggest, or one of the biggest, if not set of biggest mistakes that you see fitness and wellness business owners making in their marketing today?
So let me flip that and say, what are the most important things that they should be doing? And if you do these things, I think you'll avoid all the things that you shouldn't be doing. And I think it really boils down to just a few things. Number one, always be marketing. If you're not marketing, you're not growing, or you're not giving yourself a chance to grow. So you have to market to some extent to grow your business. And that doesn't have to be, like you said, Facebook isn't the be all end all. It doesn't have to be Facebook, but you have to be marketing. You have to be getting yourself out there. You have to be creating some type of traffic to your business at all times. So you have to be marketing. The other thing that's really important is, especially for small businesses, which I'm assuming everyone that's listening to this is a small business owner, or most of them are. There's many different types of marketing out there. The one that matters the most, especially for small business, I would say anything from $10,000 a month or less, $2,000 a month, all the way up to $10 million a month. You should be doing direct response marketing. And essentially what that is marketing that elicits a specific response with a specific offer. So you have to do some type of direct response marketing. Don't put something out there that is like Nike, who has billions of dollars to waste on branding, where they can run a commercial of someone running, and then at the end, it just says, just do it. That's a waste of your money and time, especially when you need a direct result from the marketing. So direct response marketing, you should be doing at all times. The other thing is, you always, no matter what you do, you have to have a really good offer that's hard to refuse in that marketing at all times. So you can't just say, hey, we are at 123 Main Street. Come on down and check us out. That won't work. There has to be an offer, something enticing for the prospect to take advantage of. And then number three, I would say is, or four, whatever number we're on, I would say follow the numbers. If something's not producing a result for you, then don't do it. You have to follow the numbers, and that will ensure a greater probability of success.
So let's dive into, if I heard you correctly, so the first is direct response. You got to be doing direct response marketing unless you're Nike or Apple or et cetera. You need to have a specific offer. You've got to follow the numbers. I missed the fourth one. Follow the numbers. There was a fourth.
I think I said always be marketing, direct response marketing, have an offer, and follow the numbers.
Okay, perfect.
I believe.
Beautiful. So these are the non-negotiables of marketing. And as you just heard, listeners, it's not just be on Facebook. So let's unpack this. When you say, so to the first point, always be marketing, what does that look like specifically? Are there actions you should be doing? Should you be creating content? Is it this? Is it that? Is it the other? Because I'm with you in that. In fact, I was just listening to a podcast from Keenan, who wrote the book Gap Selling last night. And he's of the accord that if you do not have a media component, you will be obsolete in a decade, 5 years, if not sooner, because the space everywhere, the internet, I mean, what is it? Something like, I believe it's like 2 petabytes of data are added to the internet. The global knowledge bank, let's say, or information bank each day, it might be higher than that even, but it's a huge staggering amount. And if you're not creating something, and I'm guessing this is what you're going to speak on to the always be marketing bit, you become obsolete because you're not noticed. You're indistinguishable from the dark matter that comprises 95% of the universe. So what does that mean when you say always be marketing? What are some specific things that people should be thinking of as they are attempting to do such?
Yeah, I mean, look, you have a business, right? And that business is essentially an organism that you need to feed. And the way you feed it is with opportunity, and that's its food. And you have to, if you're not feeding the beast, then the beast will die. And so it's more important than ever before and easier than ever before to market your business. I always say you should always have at least three ways to generate leads or generate appointments or generate traffic through your doors at all times. So 3 ways. What are those 3 ways? Well, for example, you could do, social media marketing is a very profitable way to do that. So I think that should be one no matter what, but it's not the only one. Another one would be your email list or text message list. Text messages are fire right now. They are so great to bring in prospects. It is outrageous. And so that could be number 2, email/text message list. A third could be a really great referral program. You could also have partnerships in your local area. There's so many ways you can market, but marketing isn't, hey, look at me. This is what we do. We're so amazing. Come check us out. That's not marketing. What marketing is creating flow of traffic to your business. That's really what it is. And so always have 3 at least.
Are there specific platforms that you'd recommend for SMS and referral marketing in particular?
SMS, you said?
Yeah, for that or for the referral marketing piece.
Yeah. So SMS, I mean, there's lots of platforms. There's Haymarket. Haymarket's a great one. There's Scipio, which is great. If you use High Level is great. There's a lot out there. I think the list is kind of endless, but those Haymarket and Scipio, if you're just looking for text, for example, those are fantastic.
Yeah.
So I would definitely do that. And for referrals, I would say, to bring Jay Abraham up again, for example, he says you always need to have at least 5 different referral strategies going on at any given time. So that is a lofty system to implement and make sure everyone in your business is implementing that. But it does ensure that there's multiple ways within that way to create traffic through referrals. So that's important.
Referrals are, that's word of mouth. You have the immediate social proof. Someone comes through, hey, you should talk to John. You send an email, or I guess it'd be a text in this case would be perfect. Have a group chat. Oh my God, I just went to Jenny and she's down the street and had the best Botox session or cryoskin or fat loss or whatever treatment of my life. You have to check it out. The conversion rate on that is like 80%, I'm sure. Very, very high. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, referrals, they're going to be your best customers, the customers that are the easiest to work with. They're your most profitable customers because they don't cost anything to get.
Yeah.
Referrals are fantastic. They're amazing.
Yeah, that's 100% agree. You should be seeking those out. And there's a book called Contagious, I think. Jonah Berger, is that right? Contagious, I believe it is. Anyway, the punchline of that book was, and maybe I'm conflating this with the movie Contagion, which was timely based on the last 2 years of our lives. But in any case, word of mouth is king, obviously. And one of the ways you can hack that is by setting up different referral channels that are low friction, ideally easy to track attribution so that you can credit the referring individual. But yeah, 1000% agree with you on that point. So always be marketing. Fair enough. What about direct response then? What does that look like? How do you think through building out a campaign? What are some of the tools that you might use to set up a campaign like that? What goes into setting up a direct response campaign?
Yeah. I mean, look, the thing I learned when studying direct response marketing, here's the thing. Like we said before, everything is sales. And in fact, marketing is sales. So you're just selling something different. For example, with marketing, you're selling the opt-in. Why should they give you their information? You have to sell that. Step two is like scheduling the appointment to come in. You're selling why they should come in for the appointment. And then comes selling the actual product or service. But as far as direct response marketing goes, there's a layout, right? There's like a framework to use, just like there kind of is with sales as well. And not to get too granular, but the easiest way to create a direct response advertisement is by using the framework AIDA, AIDA. It stands for attention. So you need to get their attention. So essentially it's copywriting, right? If you don't know what copywriting is, it's essentially the words you use in an ad or a sales letter or a website or whatever to push someone along to purchase something or take action on something. So that's what copywriting is. And so the first one is A, so get their attention. Number two is interest. We need to pique their interest, which essentially means, hey, this is why you should read on. The D stands for desires, which are all of the benefits and features that they're going to get by opting in. And then the last A is action. So it's called a call to action, which means basically telling them what to do to take advantage of this offer. So AIDA, attention, interest, desires, action. That's the framework you should use in all advertisements, no matter what. And that will, if you follow that framework, the numbers are very easy to understand because you can understand whether or not the tweaks that you make to the advertisement reflect in the numbers.
Are there any good copywriting books that you'd recommend listeners read if they're going to embark on writing them themselves? Their ads, that is.
Oh man, there's so many. There's a couple of books called The Boron Letters, which are fantastic. That was written by Gary Halbert, and he's kind of a legendary copywriter. Another one is called I think it's called The Ultimate Sales Letter, which is written by Dan Kennedy. He's also a legendary copywriter. Man, there's so many. Let me think here.
You have to start with one. What is the one? Because I think the Boron Letters might be, well, Dan Kennedy's pretty good too, but the Boron Letters are pretty good, I would think, as a starting point. But
yeah, truthfully, I would actually say The Ultimate Sales Letter that is my number one sales book.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I learned more from that book than anything else. That's like my dictionary of sales.
Nice.
Of copywriting, sorry.
You've got another book to throw on the shelf. There it is.
But look, not everyone wants to be a copywriter. You know, that's not what everyone's dream is, but it is a good book to learn how to, create ads and things like that.
Yeah. And verbal copy or written copy parlays great to verbal copy, written, verbal, like they overlap. The differences, of course, with verbal copies, the things that you say, there's the other elements of like the way you deliver it, your vocal variety and blah, blah. But yeah, I have read both, and the Ultimate Sales Letter is a fantastic read. So if you're the kind of person that does not want to hire an agency, which you should, because they're pros listeners, and you're probably not because you are creative, work with your hands, and don't have the time to spend hours on creating your own campaigns. But if you still refuse to hire an agency, those two recommendations are fantastic, and I would endorse those as well. Completely agree. Okay, so that's direct response. So specific response, specific offer, get your campaigns together. Is there anything else on that vein that you would touch on? Like maybe how to set up a campaign? Is there a specific tool that you would use, or channel, or anything with the plumbing of actually how to do it?
Look, I think as far as the plumbing goes, let's say, the most important thing here is you need to, if you're going to do some type of copywriting, you have to put some money behind it, which can sometimes be a little bit scary to people. But paid advertising is the most reliable source of lead generation you can possibly find.
Yeah.
Nothing else is going to be that reliable, because if you put money in, you're going to get money out. And so you just have to refine that system. So number one, advertise. Number two, collect information. Number three, that's when your sales process begins, which is follow up, get people scheduled for an appointment, bring them through the door, and then the rest of your sales process continues, which is, actually selling the thing.
What's the best way to schedule them then? And the follow-up execution, what is the best way to do that? Is there a particular medium or channel like text, call, email? What is proven to be the best way to do that from your experience?
I mean, we're having so much success with texting. Texting is the thing right now. It's got a 92% open rate. Emails have like a 15 or 20% if you're lucky. Phone calls have an even lower percentage, but you have to do all, because texting can sound very robotic and very detached from the business. And so, any good business is going to call people. Some type of phone call to have that human connection is really important, even if you leave a voicemail.
Fair enough. So the phone is not dead.
Absolutely not. It never will be.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, let's jump to the third piece here, which is having a specific offer. So how do I go about architecting what that specific offer should be?
Yeah, your offer is probably the most important part of any type of marketing. You have to have something that is intriguing, a no-brainer, and I call it low barrier. So people don't have to fight tooth and nail to get this thing or struggle to get it. So if there's a really high price point for this offer, it's less likely it's going to work, because that's a large barrier, especially if people don't know you, don't trust you, have never heard of you before, and those types of things. Know, like, and trust, right? If they don't have that, then they're not going to take action. So it has to be low barrier, and a no-brainer.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Make it easy on them. Make it friction-free. Very cool. How about the last section here? So following the numbers. So when you say that, first of all, what numbers are we referring to? And how do I know if I'm hitting the mark, missing the mark, et cetera, with the numbers?
Yeah, people can get really involved with numbers to a point where it gets very confusing. So the most important numbers, I would say, are if you're not advertising, let's just say the most important numbers are, for every lead you get, how many appointments are you scheduling? And for every appointment you schedule, how many sales are you making? So those come out in percentages, right? So if you have 10 leads and 2 become appointments, 20% conversion. If you have 10 sales appointments, 2 become customers, that's 20% conversion. So there's conversion rates with everything. Same thing with advertising on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever platform you choose. There's percentages with everything there too. So, but those are the most important. So lead to appointment, what percentage is that? And then appointment to sale. Those are the 2 big metrics that you should track in your business.
So I'm a spa owner and I have a staff. Our numbers dip 1 month, let's say on the appointment to sale, probably indicative that there's some issue with my conversion gain, let's say. Where do you start in your diagnosing, or how do you go about fixing that if you're, because these 2 metrics really point to 2 things. Number one is the marketing. So your lead to appointment is really unless you're not automating the appointment booking, this is really a marketing problem. So there's some break in the funnel up top. The second metric really tracks sales performance, appointment to sale. So how do you think about analyzing those numbers and then figuring out, okay, oh, it's Jenny and her conversion at the front desk when she gets call-ins, that's the reason for the dip in the number. And then further, how would you go to improve that for both numbers if there's anything that you can share there?
This is where a system and process really helps. So if we're talking about why have your sales dipped this month, then we have to look at the sales process. And so unraveling that is extremely important. Did you get a new sales rep or someone who's selling that's new, that doesn't know the product or the process as well as you do? Are they following the process? Are they asking the right questions? Are they asking for the sale? What components are not being met or not being executed on? If you can pinpoint those, that'll give you a really clear understanding of why things aren't going according to plan. If there is absolutely no difference from last month to this month, then you're probably in the averages game, which eventually it will kind of work itself out, because you're going to have good weeks and bad weeks. You're going to have good months and bad months. Over the 12 months, though, you should be within a very tight-knit range of, let's say, 20 to 30% close rate or something like that. So over time, the more data you have, the better it's going to get and the more accurate it's going to be. But if it's just a one-off bad month and nothing else has changed, I actually wouldn't worry about it.
Anomalies happen. This is true. Seasonality, whatever, right?
Absolutely.
Well, very cool. Well, what else would you want to leave the listeners with? If there's anything else that is an insight, some sort of actionable, do this, don't do this, pro tips or otherwise that you'd leave the listeners today with?
Yeah, I mean, look, the number one question I get is, how can I make more sales? How can I make more money? How can I increase my revenue? That is the number one thing people ask any agency, or really anyone that can bring to the table some type of revenue generating thing. And so, if you're making 10 sales a month, let's say, and you're saying, how can I make 20 sales a month? I just need to get better at sales, right? I'd say no, not really, to be honest, because that's really hard to do. If you are at a 20% closing rate, it's really hard to get to 40% closing rate with nothing else changing. Right? You're in sales. We know this. This is it's very hard to do. But what you can do is you can get 10% better at everything. And so you can get 10% better results on marketing. You could get 10% better appointment booking results. You could get 10% better at sales. You could get 10% more referrals. And if you just use incremental improvements across all of your strategies, then you have a much higher chance of doubling your sales without spending more money, without increasing your skills to be twice as good or anything like that. So that's something that I think is really important. As far as a tactic that someone that's listening to this can implement, if you're not using your current database to reach out to past prospects, then you're leaving so much money on the table. I'll give you a perfect example. This will make people money right now. This is probably the most valuable part of the podcast. Okay. If you just look at your database right now, let's say you've been marketing on Facebook, or let's say you've been in business for 5, 6, 7 years, and you have a database of contacts that have come in, are past clients, have come in but never purchased. They became a lead at some point, but never actually came in at all. You just have this database, right? If you just send out a text message to 500 people or whoever's on your database, right? And you just say something like, hey, Sarah, it's Dan from Awesome Wellness Spa. We have a few spots this week open for X, Y, and Z offer. Would you like me to reserve one for you? If you just send that out to your database, you're going to get people saying, yes, What's your schedule like? Can I come in this week? I'm only available in the afternoons. You're going to get responses like that. And that is the best way to book appointments right now. So if you haven't done that before, I would encourage you to do that at least today, tomorrow.
2 words in closing for me. Here they are. Take action. Stop waiting for the world to happen to you, but instead go happen to the world. And on that note, Dan, how can the listeners find you if they want to get into your neck of the woods and connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way, I would say just go to onestoprevenue.com and check us out. That's all you need to do. And if you like what you see, inquire, happy to talk to you, and we'll see if we can help you grow your business. But onestoprevenue.com, that's the easiest place to get us.
Awesome. Well, Dan, thanks for being on today. I appreciate the time, and I'm sure we will talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Ciao.